But man was created on the sixth day, which is the day that we celebrate as Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the year. And we call it Yom Hadin, the day of judgment. Just as Adam was judged on that day, and Eve was judged, and the snake was judged, and all life was judged. All of mankind and all life and the whole cosmos are all judged on this day. And it takes 10 days for the judgment to be finalized. It's finalized on Yom Kippur. That's why we fast on Yom Kippur. Because if there's any plea bargaining that we can do it then on Yom Kippur, or during these days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Everything in the world has to reflect what goes on in heaven. The world parallels the Torah. The Torah is the blueprint for heaven. And so if you want to know what's going on in heaven, look at the world. Amazingly, this year, we can see just how that is. Here, we have the most powerful man in the world. Not just the free world, but the whole world. I don't even know if there was another person that ever had as much power as Barack Obama. Because Russia is no longer an adversary worthy of the United States. It'll take a while for China to become that adversary. And the United States has no peers in superpowers. So the most powerful man on earth is Barack Obama. And Barack Obama is angry at the Syrian president, so-called president, the Syrian dictator, murderer, scoundrel, thief, tyrant, lowlife, Bashar Assad. When you murder your own people, when you show no compassion for your people, that shows the depth of your depravity and your evil. Just imagine what Bashar Assad would do if he had greater weaponry and a larger army. So President Obama has got to take him out. Why hasn't he taken him out? The answer is because nothing in the world is easy and straightforward. When you throw missiles at someone, people get killed. What are the consequences of those deaths? What are the consequences geopolitically that's going to happen with a strike against Assad? What will happen if Assad is deposed and a new government comes up that's like the Muslim Brotherhood? Then you haven't accomplished anything. You've gone from bad to worse. So what is your commitment? Do you want to commit American troops again on the ground like President Bush did with Iraq? That's not popular. It's not going to go. But what are you going to do? You can't prop him up. He's evil. So what are you going to do? You support the rebels that are friendly to you, but their guns are going to go to Al-Qaeda. And then what's going to happen retaliating against your strike? If you don't get rid of him, he's going to strike out against Israel, or at Lebanon, or at Jordan, or at Saudi Arabia. And maybe that's going to create a larger conflict in the Middle East. And maybe Iran's going to get involved, and Hezbollah is going to get involved. And you're going to have a renewal of the Egyptian Brotherhood going against the Egyptian military. You just don't know what's going to happen. All of this has got to be considered before you go ahead and make a strike. And so, what happens when the rabbis had a question? You know what they did? They had a powwow. They met with other rabbis, even though those rabbis were lesser, were on a smaller level than them. But they wanted the responsibility to be shared. That it shouldn't be the opinion of just one person. because of the depth of the decision that is about to be made, because of the possibility of all of the consequences. From here we get an inkling as to what's going on in heaven. God is the ultimate superpower. Why doesn't God just do things just like that? Why does God allow for Hitlers and Bashar Assad's and Pol Pot's and all of this, the rogues that we know about, and the John Gottis of the world? Why does God let them live? And the answer is very complicated, because evil keeps recurring. You get rid of one evil, you're going to wind up with another evil. Maybe the second evil is worse than the first one. Maybe with the first one you can do some business. Maybe it isn't the time yet to get rid of that evil. Maybe good men are not capable of governing their affairs and have to be dominated by tyrants who at least get the job done. All of these things are complex. And so what does God do? God convenes a court. Everything that God does is done not just by God, but together with a divine court of designated angels and souls who participate in the judgments of other people and of countries and of planets and stars, etc. Because everything is complex. Life is complex. There's a tremendous balance that's existing out there. We know about the balance of nature. These are things where the whole world is balanced and all the cosmos are balanced. And when you do something, it upsets the balance, and you have to know what the consequences are. And of course, God knows those consequences. But God wants that those consequences should be shared by others who see, who are shown what God knows will happen. Because God wants that the justice system should be fair. And that is actually what we say in the Parsha of the week. Hatzur tamim pa'alei kichol drachav mishpat. He is the faithful rock. All of his actions are perfect. All of his ways are justified. All except God's judgments. And that's what's going on in heaven. There's a balance. There's judgment. Everyone is being judged, and everything is being judged. And it's frightening. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what the consequences are going to be. Only God knows. And those consequences are shared with the court in heaven. And that's why you have this situation with Barack Obama, the most powerful man in the world, and nobody can tell him what to do. At the end of the day, he's the president. He can do what he wants. He can press that button. Nobody will tell him boo. But he realizes that everything you do is complex, and therefore you want a shared burden. My friends, we are all being judged. And just as God wants a shared burden, the easiest way for us to be judged favorably is to accept the burden of others, to accept responsibility for caring for another human being, not just our family. Caring for others, giving charity, worrying about others. When you share and care for others, so then the balance of judgment comes out most of the time in your favor. And that's the lesson of this year's Rosh Hashanah.